I got a call earlier this year. It was Rob from Cabot Guns. Now, we've had several reviews on Cabot 1911s, but this call was the first one of its kind that I've ever received. It was an invitation to buy what Rob described as his favorite gun that they've produced. Now, I'll admit, I felt a little bit cool. I've never been invited to buy something before, and I told Rob that while I appreciated it, I already knew the best gun they were making, and it wasn't the model he was describing. In fact, it wasn't even from Cabot, but it was Cabot's sister company, Alchemy Custom Weaponry, and the model was the Quantico.
Okay, so who is Alchemy Custom Weaponry? The best way you can really think of it is as a sister company to Cabot Guns. Now, Cabot and Alchemy have been on the channel before, so for those of you, some of you know this stuff, but Cabot deals in very, very high-end 1911s. And frankly, their guns are typically more expensive than a lot of their competitors because of the fact that their complexity and how they make their guns is very, very, very high, right? If you think of Cabot in a similar way to what you would think of with like Swiss watches, an increase in the complexities is going to lead to an increase in the price. Now, Alchemy, totally different animal here, and it's one that I'm just drawn to as a human being. Alchemy is a throwback brand. So Cabot uses very crazy technology to make their guns. Alchemy uses human beings and craftsmanship. And that's not to discount and say that Cabot doesn't have craftsmanship, it's just a different style to get to the same end product. So what you have with Alchemy is classic designs brought into the 21st century, and you have American-made components, but assembled using old style craftsman techniques, files, and actual human beings are assembling everything related to this gun, right? So you've got classic designs, modern functionality and components assembled using classic techniques. Very, very interesting stuff. Now, the Alchemy Quantico is their throwback to the FBI HRT guns. So, who is HRT? So, FBI HRT stands for Hostage Rescue Team. The best way to think of HRT is as the counterterrorism unit for federal law enforcement, aka the FBI. They were stood up in 1983, and really it was in response to the 1972 Munich Olympics hostage crisis. What happened was in 1984, the Olympics were going to be in Los Angeles, and we did not want another situation like what happened in Munich, so FBI begins to stand up HRT. And HRT, the best way to think of it is Navy SEALs are to the Navy, as MARSOC is to the Marines, as HRT is to the FBI. It is the Special Operations, it is the Tier 1 unit of federal law enforcement. And what's really cool is HRT, I mean, even deploys overseas with some of these units. So they are very, very highly trained. It is fascinating if you look into the different units and the different capabilities that they have. Now, the original HRT 1911 was made by Springfield Armory, and it was a railed 5-inch 1911 in 45 ACP, right? Very, very cool, very iconic gun. They are not easy to find, and if you can find them, they're normally $300 to $3,500, right? So they are not cheap, especially for those of you that think a Springfield should be $1,000. What makes the Quantico really interesting is that Rob Schauland, who's really the guy behind Alchemy, it's his designs, his baby, he actually worked at Springfield as a gunsmith when Springfield was making the HRT 1911s. So the Quantico, what we have is a 5-inch, which is also referred to as a government length 1911. You can get this in 45 or 9. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret on this gun. It's chambered in 9mm, and I know that Rob over at Alchemy hates my guts and is disappointed with me as a man for shooting this gun in 9, but I'm gonna shoot you straight. No pun intended, it's just more enjoyable to shoot in 9. If you don't own a 45 1911, you should definitely start there. But if you start to own multiple 1911s or 2011s, like, venture out into 9mm territory. Now, if we start with the frame, obviously the gun is railed. That is going to be a very critical point of the HRT 1911s. You're going to have a very high undercut on the frame here. That's going to enable you to get a high grip on the gun. When I say that the people behind Alchemy and Cabot, for that matter, are obsessive personalities, I mean it very seriously and also lovingly. So here's a couple of things to illustrate that. The grip screws will all face the exact same orientation, right? So they will all face exactly the same angle, right? The lines all have to line up on both sides of the grips. To take it one step further on the obsessive scale, the screw on the mag release lines up with the screw on the grips. It's next level obsession. I believe I said this from memory in a video, another Alchemy video that we did, because the grips came in. I didn't like those grips. I wanted to swap them out. I did, and being an idiot, the grip screws did not face the right direction. They were facing different directions from each other, and I actually got a message from Cabot saying, like, please do better and do this properly. And I did my best, and I think I still scratched them up. So you do have that. The checkering is very interesting, and it's really, really cool. So basically on the sides of the grip versus in the middle of the grip, these have different styles checkering. So basically it doesn't have the horizontal checkering on the sides, which is going to be the areas most likely to rub against your body if you've got this in a holster, carrying an appendix, something like that. Yes, this would be a little bit ridiculous to carry appendix, but you guys get my idea. Basically, this is designed to be as comfortable as possible to carry and or grip. That's going to be the same on the front and the back. You are going to have an ambi safety, very positive, very nice. I'm a lefty for those of you that don't know, so the ambi safety does matter. You've also got a flat face trigger. The trigger does have some serrations on it, and that does give you just a nice positive, especially in hot conditions. If you can't tell, hey, we're in a pretty desert-oriented environment where it is hot, and as you get sweaty, that traction is nice just to be able to get some traction on the trigger. Trigger pull itself is absolutely fantastic. And if you guys don't shoot many 1911s, you won't know this, but even a bad 1911 trigger is going to be way better than what you're used to on a good striker fire gun. This is a very nice 1911 trigger, therefore it's quite nice. Taking a look at the slide, we have a very, very tight lockup, and that's going to be one of the hallmarks of a good 1911 or 2011. There is no play whatsoever inside of this gun. It is extremely, extremely tight. When you first get it, it will break in a little bit, as any good performance car or gun will, but even to get the slide moving, you've got to get a little bit of, yep, and then she goes, right? So it's very, very smooth slide. If you can hear this whatsoever, it's just, that's what a slide on a gun is supposed to sound like. Extremely tight lockup. You've got a hand fit barrel. Barrel is very, very nice. Very, very, again, tight, especially as it mates up with the bushing. The bushing on a 1911 is part of where that extreme accuracy is going to come from. This one is extremely tight. Even to get the bushing out to disassemble the gun, you're going to have to work for it, right? But again, that's all that hand fitting that's happening. That's the point, right? This is what we seek in these guns. The barrel is crowned and flush fit, therefore the barrel is not sticking out, and that crown is very, very nicely done. Obviously, you've got serrations in the rear. You don't have serrations up front because that would be improper for an HRT 1911. And then you have a very nice ledge slide stop that's over here that's very, very tactile. I'm a lefty, so basically that sequence on a reload, mag goes back in, and I'm using that trigger finger to drop that slide. And it's very nice. It's very, very tactile. Finish on the gun is a bead blast blue finish, and what is going to be really cool about this gun over time is it is going to get a bit beaten up, and it's going to get worn and scratched, and some of that finish, even around the muzzle, it's already starting to happen on mine just ever so slightly, is going to start to wear away a bit. And it's going to give this gun a very, very vintage look that I think is going to be cool. One thing, look, even though these are great and nice guns, right, expensive pistols, they have character once they get beat up. So if you get something like this, like, look, don't be afraid to run it in Kydex, okay? It's a $3,500 pistol, and I think the real question is it worth $3,500?
Aesthetically, it's one of my favorite pistols I've ever seen. I was being truthful with Rob when he called and invited me to buy one of their new Cabets. The Quantico truly is my favorite gun currently made between Alchemy and Cabot. The other truth is, I'm probably a horrible person to do reviews on guns like this. You see, I've always been drawn to things that are still handmade, still have craftsmen behind them. It's something classic that's been brought into the 21st century. It's an automatic Swiss watch in an era of Apple iWatches. I understand all the arguments against 1911s, but they move me. In practicality, it has its place. Often, in fact. But there's still a place for passion and throwback and things that have significance. To quote Rob, it's the fucking hero weapon. A gun like the Quantico is something that every gentleman should own. ACW, in my opinion, it's still the best kept secret in the 1911 game.